I also want to acknowledge Judy Hilo Schwartz, who's in the back, who won't like this part of it, but without Judy, none of these programs in the alumni world would happen. She's outstanding. Tonight's 7 honorees are a special cohort of people who will be memorialized on a plaque outside of the auditorium upstairs. But you're here tonight to celebrate them. Their pioneer qualities are in abundance. Each has continued to take their pioneer pathway to innovate, to inspire, and to impact their respective communities in countless ways. It's my pleasure tonight to start off the awards with the recipient of the Father Greg Tollis Class of 1974 Award for Distinguished Service. Tonight we're honoring Jennifer Paulson Alexander Monzon, who is the Class of 1997. In Father Greg's honor, who was a beloved son of Hill Murray, I know several of you in this room maybe had the sacrament celebrated by him. He worked at St. Thomas College. He was a well-known servant of North Minneapolis, the Church of St. Philip, and he also overcame his own health issues to become an advocate for his community to make sure that God's love and presence was known to the people that he served there in the North Side. Likewise, Jennifer is someone who spent her early years learning here through creativity and perseverance and collaboration through an extensive involvement in the theater program, of which her family was heavily involved as well. She carried these traits on through high school at Northwestern University, the University of Chicago Booth School of Business. She went into finance and investment and now is an entrepreneur for Chapin Coffee, which partners with growers in Guatemala to improve local communities and families and to produce an exceptional cup of coffee. I've had it, it's good. Jennifer is a lover of foreign languages, cultures, delights at expanding her horizons. I think those are great qualities for all Hill Murray students. Thank you for carrying those forward. She currently lives with her husband and 2 children in Guatemala, and it's our pleasure to honor her this evening.
Thank you. I feel like I can barely see you all over this big platform. Thank you so much for the kind introduction. It's really such an honor to be here with all of you tonight. Hill Murray holds a special place in my heart. My dad, Mark Paulson, was the fine arts director here from 1977-ish to 2007. So from before I was born until years after I graduated, this was my home away from home. My childhood was spent picking dandelions from the hills out behind the priory, pretending that the beloved wall in front was an Olympic balance beam, and winding my way through the rows of the auditorium, counting the seats again and again. And there were always 713. It's hard to believe that it's been almost 30 years since I walked these halls regularly, yet the lessons I learned and the experiences that I had at Hill Murray are the foundation that shaped me into who I am today and why I'm here with you all tonight. So when I found out that I'd be receiving the Distinguished Service Award, it got me thinking and contemplating the question, what is the path to living a life of impact and service in the world? And I decided to begin by looking at the life of the man for whom this award was named, Father Greg Tollis. So as Katie said, Father Greg's dedicated his life to service, spiritual growth, and social development through his work as a priest in the Catholic Church. And in reading about his life, I was inspired to learn of the impact he made in his brief 47 years on earth. He began his career at the University of St. Thomas, where he brought a bold and visionary energy of living out the gospel through service in his roles as a spiritual director of the seminary and later director of campus ministry at the university. He left the affluent world of St. Thomas in 1997 to follow a call to serve the church by revitalizing a struggling parish in Minneapolis, where he remained through the end of his career and his life. And as I imagine the countless lives that were impacted by Father Tollis' presence, from the university students to residents in the areas of need where he traveled, such as Appalachia and, as I learned, Guatemala, to the community of St. Philip Parish in Minneapolis, I see in his legacy someone who dared to do things differently, who served through his presence, and who no doubt inspired others to live lives of service by shining his light so brightly into the world. So the next place I looked for examples of living a life of impact and service is the community that I'm so blessed to be a part of here at Hillmurray. This award is truly a recognition and a celebration of this community that quite literally raised me. And it's so wonderful to share this moment with so many of the members of the community tonight. Their presence has taught me, guided me, and inspired me along my path, and that's really the common thread, that each of them are an example of how our personal presence matters and makes an impact. So I'm going to tell you a couple of stories about some of the special people who are here with me tonight. First, Colleen Jameson. She had a vision in the late 1990s here at Hillmurray to create a new student group called Peer Listeners. And the idea was to train high school students in the art of compassionate listening so that they could be an additional resource for students who may be struggling and in need of a safe space to process. And this was really revolutionary at the time. We're talking like 1996, I think. I was so fortunate to be a part of the first group of peer listeners here at Hillmurray. And what I learned through that experience has shaped so much of my work today. I credit my path into executive coaching and leadership development to the seeds that were sown by Mrs. J. So thank you. Coach Ryan, Tim Ryan's not here tonight, but he was my cross-country coach. And through that experience, he taught us not only dedication and discipline in our physical training, but also that every single person on the team contributed a unique presence that was valuable. Now, I was by far not the fastest runner, yet Coach Ryan gave me the opportunity to lead as captain of the team during my senior year. And this early leadership experience gave me the confidence that I could be a leader, opening the door to me raising my hand at future leadership opportunities in school and beyond. Now, part of what makes the Hillmurray community so unique is that it's not just comprised of the current students and teachers, but it's truly a family of multi-generational love and support and discipline when needed. And I'm so moved tonight to be joined by some very special people from that multi-generational family. Julie Takeo Kanzemius is a role model who I've looked up to since we met in the theater when I was just 4 years old. She was my big sister on stage countless times, and like a younger sibling, I watched her to learn how to navigate in theater, in high school, and in life. And let me tell you, she did everything with such integrity. I couldn't have had a better role model. And since the Hillmurray community is for life, I've continued to watch and learn from her, even after she and I graduated. We continued to perform together well beyond high school, and that's really the depth and strength of this community. The HM family really is forever. At Hillmurray, we also inherited a cast of surrogate parents, and I'm grateful that one of mine is here tonight. If you saw A Christmas Carol anytime from the early 1990s to the mid-2000s, you might likely know Mr. Mike Hansel, aka Ebenezer Scrooge. And one of the most active parents, probably, in the history of Hillmurray Theater, his offstage persona is about as far from Scrooge as one could be. Ever generous with his time, his attention, and encouragement, he was a second father to literally hundreds of students who came up through the theater program here. And of course, there are my own parents, Mark and Lynn Paulson, the only ones who could attempt to rival Mr. Hansel in logging hours of rehearsals and shows participated in. Even as they acted as surrogate parents to so many other kids, it was through their devotion as educators, my dad through the theater, and my mom through music and theater, that I once again learned the value of presence and servant leadership. Another unique aspect, yet another aspect of the Hillmurray community is that the learning and inspiration doesn't solely come from the elders, wink. I'm continually inspired by the journeys of some of my younger sibling alums, two of whom are here tonight. Katie Jameson, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, Mrs. J, is shining her light so brightly through her involvement with local nonprofits, giving her gifts of project management and event organization, as well as through her entrepreneurial business, Engaged Travel. All of this alongside her great work as a mother, raising two fierce and loving daughters. And also here tonight is my actual sister, Heather, who is not only carrying on our dad's legacy in local community theater, but who is also challenging and transforming the world of fitness and Pilates through her inclusive and body-positive studio, Core Pilates in St. Paul. If you're ever on Grand Avenue, check it out. That's a shameless plug for my sister. And last but certainly not least, and as a testament to the strength of the HM bonds, my oldest friend, Tara Russell, is here tonight. Tara and I met when we were 9 years old, and together we were the only 2 students in our class of almost 700 in our public junior high to choose to transfer to Hill Murray for high school. Our years together at Hill Murray deepened our friendship and connection, weaving a lifelong bond in which we continue to choose each other year after year and show up for each other in good times and hard times. 36 years and counting. So the pattern that emerges through all these examples tonight, from Father Tullis to the teachers, mentors, and friends in our Hill Murray community, is that the path to making a positive impact in the world winds through our own personal experience and our own personal presence. Who we are, what we do, and how we do it matters. It matters. If we can live authentically and from a place of service, then we show others that this is possible. And it opens the door to more and more people living lives of service and contribution, which in turn elevates the planet. And I attempt to do this in my own small way through the choices I make in my own life, and I've made some unconventional ones. When I was 29 years old, I had an awakening of sorts and a realization that the path I was on wasn't in alignment with my purpose, that my true calling was somewhere out there, so I leapt to find it. And this led me to leave a more traditional corporate career and embark on a journey of entrepreneurship, creating multiple businesses in various industries, but all with a similar purpose: to use my gifts, my unique gifts and perspective, to be of service and leave the world a better place than I found it. The longest running creation to date is the specialty coffee company that I created with my partner over a decade ago, which donates meals to undernourished children in Guatemala through the proceeds of selling our coffees. And the second longest running creations are my daughters, now 5 and 7. The initiation of becoming a mother has taught me so much about presence, and it's gotten me thinking even more deeply about sustainability in our personal lives and how we take care of ourselves, for our families, our businesses, and our world. So now, after some years of the more internally focused work of raising a family while tending to the coffee company, I'm bringing what I've learned through entrepreneurship and motherhood to leadership development in corporate America, for companies who desire to support their employees in working and living wisely and sustainably. And that brings me back to my initial inquiry. What is the path to living a life of impact and service in the world? I believe that our Hill Murray community and values show us that each one of us has the power to impact the world through the choices we make in our individual lives. Whether that's daring to do things differently, like Father told us, being more present with ourselves and our loved ones, caring in a sustainable way for ourselves and our planet, our daily actions create a ripple effect that shifts the collective and the world. So to quote Father Tullis from a 1990 interview for St. Thomas Magazine, "The losses, the joys, the gift of life have taught me much. No one gets more than one day at a time. Some people just pretend they do." This moment is all we truly have. Let's recommit tonight to being present in this moment of our lives, for ourselves, with those we love, because our presence does make a difference. It's the drop in the ocean that reverberates out and changes the tides. Thank you, and may you be blessed.
If some of you are following along in the program tonight, we're going to jump up ahead and honor our friend Dan Leko posthumously. And you can appreciate this because he's got little ones in his party tonight who are approaching bedtime. So if we've all been there with small children trying to keep their attention in probably a warm room with lots of adults talking. So I would like to, at this time, speak about the LaSallian Award. It was inspired by the Christian brothers who founded Hill High School in 1959 and their worldwide commitment to faith and education, which became hallmarks of the high school, are something that live on in all the alums that I still meet. This charism for faith paired with action, I think it will speak volumes about the person we're honoring tonight. And I invite up Hill Murray's President Emeritus and 1973 grad, Jim Hansen, to speak a little bit more about Dan Leko.
Well, unfortunately, when Bill told me that he couldn't make it tonight, Bill was my colleague who ran facilities and worked with Danny very closely. He didn't tell me that I had to follow Jennifer Paulson. Phenomenal. I can see why you've been such a great success in your life and a great role model for, I hope we tape that and can show that to all of our current students. If you look in the program, our former principal and president, Sue Paul, who worked with Danny for over 20 years, nominated Dan, who was a graduate of '83, but in many ways he never really left the building. In her nomination, she talks about self-service, that no task in this building was too small for Dan, and no task was too large. He always was the first one here in the building. He was always here trying to help clean up or help some classroom that wasn't working right. And even though we had aging infrastructure, he somehow held it all together. He showed kindness to students, for a generation of students, to the faculty, and even to the administrative team once in a while. His dedication was second to none. And he was trustworthy. In honor of those things, Sue nominated Danny for this award. I really wish he could be here. There's a certain hubris that goes with leadership positions because you get all the benefits of all the success that the organization has. I had the opportunity to be a CEO of a publicly traded tech company during the boom, and everybody looks at you and says, that's the reason why the place is successful. And there's this thing called an imposter award that you really understand that it's not you. Because you know when the shit hits the fan, everybody goes to stand in front of that engineer or that physician or that person in that place, or maybe some of the key teachers that really make a difference. And you know it. And every time something happened here, you know where everybody stood? Outside of Dan's office, which wasn't really an office, it was in the boiler room, which is how he kept the place running. My first week as president of Hill Murray, and I've never been a leader in a school before, and Mary, you might remember, all of a sudden on a Sunday night, I got to get a call from Danny that says, you got to come to the school, the power's out. Now don't panic, because that happens to us a lot. So I come out here and it starts getting dark, and then he has to show me how to get up on the roof. So we had to climb up on the roof. I said, have you called Excel? He said, oh yeah, I got my contact, he's on his way. So we're up on the roof. Finally it's 2 o'clock in the morning and Excel says, well, it's your fault, it's the school's fault, it's not ours, we're leaving. And now it's 2 o'clock, it's dark. And I probably shouldn't tell his family this, but he did pull a little trick because we knew that there were kids playing off, probably not kids, and probably not playing appropriately, off in the woods behind the priory, and he knew how to hit a switch that caused a big boom out there, and all of a sudden we saw kids come running out of the woods at 2 o'clock in the morning. So we had to call, and Danny called another former Hill Murray alum, one of the Wool brothers, that was one of the Weber brothers, who came to try and help us. We eventually decided that only because of his deep knowledge, he said, you know, the wire better than Excel knew, the power runs off of the road and it comes underground and it goes to the old priory. And I'm sure that's where the problem is. I see our former architect is nodding his head yes. Only Dan knew that at 4 o'clock in the morning. And I said, Dan, you got to go home. We'll worry about it in the morning. And sure enough, the next day, working with the Weber Electric people, we discovered that there was water underground in that tunnel, had shorted out the system, and he worked with his contacts at Excel to get two big semi-trailers came 2 days later, parked outside the school, and somehow he hooked up the school to two big trucks that were running generators. And we ran the school for 2 weeks that way, including a Friday night football game where Danny ran around the building and turned off every single light and unplugged everything in every classroom to make sure that we had enough power to run the lights. When you talk about dedication and stories, that's Dan. Similarly true when we had a board member who had a business who had done work on facilities for schools all over the country. And he joined our board. His daughters were then in the program. And he decided that we should have a spreadsheet that had every single element in the building with an age on it so we knew when to replace it. Seems like a really smart idea. Until we got to the boiler. And he came to a meeting and he said to me, do you realize that that boiler was supposed to be replaced 20 years ago? And unfortunately, this building was built all at once, but the field house, the gym, a couple of the other pieces were additions, the whole basement level, and they were all cobbled together and not consistent. And somehow, Danny, for over 20 years, knew which bulb to turn and which thing to screw. And when we were talking about how it was hot in here today, he'd be the one to know, oh, I got to go turn this thing. And somehow he kept the thing running for 20 years longer than it finally did. And when we finally got it in, the engineers who did it that summer said, oh my God, I don't know how you did this. One of them was plugged, one of them was hooked up the wrong way. And somehow he had managed to keep the school running from an amazing sense of his dedication, his trustworthiness, his kindness, and his self-service. As I said, his longtime supervisor, Bill Schaffhauser, who now lives in Montana, couldn't be here tonight, but he sent these words and asked that we read them. Dan always considered his role in the maintenance team's efforts as customer service. He took great pride in his work and wanted the school in the best possible condition at all times, clean, safe, and in good order, so everyone would enjoy their time at Hillmurray. He wanted all to find the building welcoming and to live up to the sign on the front lawn. Dan had an amazing knowledge of the school campus from an historical perspective, but also an intimate understanding of its infrastructure and inner workings. And I know, brother, you'd be proud of him as a true LaSallian. As the school continued to grow and implement new HVAC systems, energy management software, or adding new buildings, he took the time to learn those systems. And many times he was the only one who knew how to run our energy management system. He was the go-to guy for all things dealing with the physical plant. As Bill says, Dan was one of the smartest guys I ever met. His knowledge, combined with his thoughtfulness, were a great strength during those many years as a member of the Hillmurray staff. He had weekly meetings, and they enjoyed him immensely. And he often discussed with a lot of us his many interests, his time working at his property in Afton, building a cabin up north, his times as part owner of the North Paul Saints roller rink, and as DJ Cruz, and his time with his family. He was not just a facilities guy, though. If you look up in that, where you see a little glass window up there, he was the founder of the HM Radio Club his last couple of years here. He was really a trained DJ, and he just loved having students. And as some of our staff members know, when we launched our radio station, this was just prior to COVID, we had people in Ukraine listening in and all over the world that had signed up for our streaming app to listen to the Pioneer radio station. Bill says it was an honor for me to work with Dan for nearly 15 years. I admired his commitment and his passion for Hillmurray, and he made it a better place for one and for all. Dan had a kind heart and was a giver of his time and in his love of the school. Dan, to your family and your loved ones, from the many years that you served our Pioneer family, you have been awarded the LaSallian Award. And like the first Christian brothers in France who gave up their life in service for children to gain an education, Dan gave up a big chunk of his life in honor of the kids that we had go through here at Hillmurray. So I'd like to ask his stepdaughter, Megan Karras, to step up and receive the award.
Hi, thank you. I have to make this pretty short because I'm not sure how long my daughter's going to last back there. But I'm Megan Karras, I'm Dan's stepdaughter, and I'm here with a lot of our family and friends tonight, including Dan's two granddaughter and grandson, who never got to meet him, unfortunately. And Dan, as many of you probably know from working with him over the years, he worked here for a very long time. So hopefully some of you were able to meet him. He just was the most generous, genuine, kind, and calm person. I still don't think I've met anyone who I have never seen mad. He was just the best, and we all miss him very much. And so we're thankful to Hillmurray for honoring him tonight with this award. And yeah, this is for Dan. Thank you.
Well, you can see our committee had some wonderful people to choose from tonight, and we're going to keep going with the recipient of the Ron Ryan Jr. Class of 1985 Award for Community Leadership. As many of you know, Ron Ryan Jr. gave his life in service as a police officer in St. Paul, and this community service call resonates strongly with our honoree tonight, Colleen Reddy Humphreys, Archbishop Murray, Class of 1965. As a servant leader who likes to remain probably in the background, you'll see that she's got two tables tonight. All the presence of her classmates show the strength of their admiration for the quiet but focused philanthropic spirit she's demonstrated for half a century. Her 50 years of leadership at Sherwood Lounge has served the East Side communities. By using this business establishment as a place to raise funds for medical purposes, ill children, first responders and veterans, Special Olympics, and countless other causes, she has impacted thousands of lives with her charitable work. It's our pleasure to honor tonight Colleen Reddy Humphreys with the Ron Ryan Jr. Award.
Who would have thought? I am not good on a microphone. What a great job that they did tonight, didn't they? Really a nice event. Thank you. Anyway, I was going to tell you some of the stuff we've done, but it's all in here, so I don't have to. But I want to thank you all for coming. My classmates, wow, really surprised me. Thank you. And my family is here, my sisters, my kids, my brother and his girlfriend, and I want to thank Kimmy. She's here in pink. She's an employee, and she has done a lot of work for our fundraisers and put things together to make it successful for a little bar that I am. But anyway, she deserves an award like all my employees, not so much me. But I thank you for it all, and I appreciate. I was so dumbfounded when Linda Radford Lawrence called me to interview me and finally told me who nominated me, which was Mary Morelli. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Linda. That's all I got. Thank you.
I'll tell you that class of 1965 has some of the best stories I've ever heard as an employee here. I'm glad they're all here tonight enjoying themselves some more. Our next recipient is receiving the Benedictine Award, named in honor of the Sisters of St. Paul's Monastery, who founded Archbishop Murray Memorial High School in 1958 in this very building where we're still enjoying wonderful times, lots of good stories, and probably a little bit of mischief. Their dedication to education and serving young women and molding them into servant leaders who espouse hospitality, contemplation, and using their gifts for the world could not better describe Suzanne Sami Scott, class of '81, who's receiving this award. Sami lovingly called, or heard the call, I should say, of her life to minister those who lived on the periphery, lives very different from her own. Her decades of work with the Maryknoll lay missionaries in Venezuela, Cambodia, and Haiti shared her warmth and expertise with her brothers and sisters around the globe. And very recently, Haiti, as you all know, had civil unrest, and we're very grateful that she was able to safely be here with us this evening. Sami's solidarity and missionary charism have been a change agent for all the communities to which she was assigned. It's our deep honor to welcome her to the stage this evening. Sami Scott.
Okay, thank you. Peter began to say to Jesus, "We have given up everything to follow you." Jesus said, "Amen, I say to you, there is no one who has given up house or brothers or sisters, or mother or father or children or lands for my sake, or for the sake of the gospel, who will not receive 100 times more now in this present age. Houses and brothers and sisters, and mothers and children and lands, with persecutions and eternal life in the age to come. But many that are first will be last, and the last will be first." This passage from Mark was a daily reading from last Tuesday, and it perfectly sums up my experience in mission. I have been a Maryknoll lay missioner for the past 27 years. When I was sent to Venezuela in 1996, it was a different world. Personal computers, internet, and emails were still relatively new. Facebook and social media didn't exist. And snail mail was just that. Sometimes it took months for the mail to be delivered, if it arrived at all. Where I lived, there wasn't cell phone coverage until my last year, and to connect to the internet, on the dial-up connection, I had to lug my computer to the office in town 30 minutes away. I went, knowing the limitations, but when the Holy Spirit says go, you go. But I found family and friends wherever I went, from Venezuela to Cambodia and then Haiti. I'm an introvert, and it still surprises me how many friends I have made over the years, and how many people still follow me after I have left the country. My call to service began when I was in high school, and it was nourished while I was at Hill Murray. And I am honored to be given the 2024 Benedictine Award. I especially want to thank Jake Kohler, my classmate, who nominated me for this year's award. We reconnected at high school reunions and have stayed in touch via social media, via Facebook. Along with new family and friends found in mission, my family here have continued to support me in mission. Some of the places I have served have been difficult, especially Haiti, or far away, like Cambodia. But they understood my call and have never asked me to come home. I'd like to thank my family members who are able to celebrate with me here today in the two Scott tables. Their support of Marion Olay missioners has helped me stay in the field. My mom, who is also here today, and Jack, my stepdad, who passed away 3 years ago, have been my rock over the years. I would also like to thank Marion Olay missioners who have continued to allow me to serve with them in mission. They have helped me to grow as a person and as a missioner. They have believed in me for over 27 years and counting. Some of the families and friends I have received while in mission include, in Venezuela, Comadres Rosa and Lilibet, Compadre Dougla, Ocelis, Douglita, Jonathan, Jefferson, Justine, Manuel, Josalai, Josbert, and the whole extended Mujica family with whom I lived while in Pavia. Senor Miriam, Senor Ernesto, Lisbeth, Jorge, Carmen, and the Alvarez family. In Cambodia, Maria, Kila, Amanda, Sarai, Sambat, Tida, Bopa, Konkia, Dr. Vuti, Hélène, Sipal, Diover, who I met in Venezuela and in Cambodia, and Pedro in Soknim. In Haiti, sisters Pat and Jackie, Jerry, Bob and Denise, Tiden, Gina, Lawang, Guy Marie, Diana, Constant, Rosemont, met Dilius, and Madame Alice and Jaloud. And with Maryknoll in general, Heidi, Rose, Charlie, Len, Marge, Regina, Mary Little, John, and Liz. These are only a few people in each country. I could be here all day just naming people who have befriended me, have taken care of me, who have been family to me. Amen, I say to you, there is no one who has given up house, or brothers, or sisters, or mother, or father, or children, or lands, for my sake and for the sake of the gospel, who will not receive 100 times more in this present age. Muchísimas gracias, acuncharan, mesiam pil, which means thank you very much.
Our next award recipient is Alyssa Carlson Hahn, class of 2012, who is our Young Alumni Award winner. As many of you know, I am married to an academic, so I very much understand that she sent her 3 pages, all worth the wait, but about 2 minutes before we were to start this program. I will read her remarks in a moment, but I think it's important to note that we have graduates from about 60 years. So anyone in the first 20 years of their careers, it's a real honor to call attention to some of the distinctions that they've already created and how they are inspiring other alumni, their family members, and our current students. So on behalf of Alyssa, I will read her speech. I am honored and humbled to accept the Young Alumni Award. I am extremely grateful for the Hill Murray alumni community members for recognizing my accomplishments and selecting me for this award. I wish I could be here with you tonight to celebrate these accomplishments and all the 2024 honorees. My educational and professional journey has been nothing short of unconventional. I dropped out of high school after junior year and graduated from college early and earned my doctorate degree by the age of 24. Since then, I've had a rewarding career in academia and was an associate professor of biomechanics and have since retired from academia to pursue a career in industry. This change of career was more conducive to helping me raise my young family. I suppose it is no surprise to say that ambition played a role in my expedited educational path, something that Hill Murray certainly helped me develop along the way. Hill Murray encouraged students to become independent thinkers, identify goals, seek motivation, and engage in lifelong learning. These skills have all been instrumental in my early success. However, I realize that when you take an unorthodox path, not everyone is supportive of your decisions. I learned to lean on my faith, my family, and mentors when others might have challenged my decisions to seek these paths. I needed to continue to pursue my professional goals in a manner that were true to me. Many of my professional accomplishments have been driven by my value of service to others, a virtue that was heavily emphasized during my time at Hill Murray. While I participated in several service opportunities as a student, I walked dogs at a local shelter, I played piano at a nursing home, I had always hoped to find a way to use the gifts God gave me for good and in the service of others in a larger scale. When my goddaughter was diagnosed with polycystic kidney disease, I realized I could use my scientific knowledge to develop a research protocol to contribute to this field, with the hopes that someday she and all those affected by PKD might not have to suffer. Lastly, and most importantly, my Catholic faith has guided every step of my way. Hill Murray nurtured that foundation in faith that became central to my identity. This led me to pursue a Catholic college where my faith would be further strengthened and where I would eventually begin my professional career as a professor. It was truly humbling to be a professor at Carroll College in Montana and be a role model for my undergraduate students, not only for my scientific knowledge, but for my faith. My educational experience at Hill Murray is one that I truly felt where my faith had come alive, and I have sought to incorporate that faith into every aspect of my life, including my career. I would like to end by thanking those who have supported me along the way. My parents, Bob and Michelle, I will forever be grateful that you let your 17-year-old daughter drop out of high school to head off to college 1,000 miles away. Thank you for trusting me and encouraging me to follow my own paths and to push boundaries. To my many, many mentors, including Timothy Cooper, a retired theology professor or teacher here at Hill Murray. Thank you for always being in my corner and supporting me in every step of my educational journey, even when those others had questioned what I was doing. To my husband Cameron and my children Scarlett and Lane, thank you for being endlessly proud of me and showing me God's love in ways I couldn't even imagine. The life we have created in Montana is so beautiful that while I'm receiving this award for my professional contributions, you've taught me that there's so much more to life than my career. So from a distance, let's please acknowledge Alyssa Hahn. I was half expecting her to show up mid-sentence and we could hand the award off to her. But tonight we also have the recipient of the Aschenbrenner Paulson Performing and Fine Arts Award. This is the second year that this award has been handed out, and it's our honor to honor Tommy Barbarella, class of 1984. This dual-named award mentions the long-serving and beloved HM principal and band director Frank Aschenbrenner, whose name, arguably more than others, is synonymous with the school for so many generations of pioneers. The second name on this award is the matchless Mark Paulson, theater director from 1977 to 2007, and who put HM Performing Arts on the map for its excellence. We've already heard from his daughter this evening. His wife, Lynn, and his other daughter, Heather, are also here, and we're so excited to have you here for our honor of Tommy Barbarella. Many of you might know that Tommy has a storied music career where his talents have been recognized and he has gotten to work with some of the most innovative and exciting musicians, brands, and filmmakers of the past few decades. Tommy's contributions and collaborations with Prince live on through innovative works with the Minnesota Orchestra and the Minnesota Vikings, Plus, he continues to mentor some of our own HM performers to this day. We're very pleased to call to the stage Tommy Barbarella.
Thank you. I wish I wouldn't have to go last. After all these amazing speeches, I have nothing prepared. Like a true jazz musician, I'm going to improvise. And I'll start off by saying I haven't been here in 40 years, and it's a lot of emotion to come back here, and all these memories are coming flooding back. I will also say it's taken me about 40 years to wear gray pants and a light blue shirt. For some reason, I avoided wearing this combo for a long time. So I've heard so many things mentioned tonight that triggered memories that I was like, oh, I want to talk about that, I want to talk about that. You know, I came here in 9th grade as a very quiet, shy kid who was pretty good at the piano already, but I hadn't done anything. I hadn't worked with anyone. You know, coming from St. Pascal's, we barely had a band. There was no theater to speak of. So the first thing I remember was doing this musical, or it was a Christmas musical about Winnie the Pooh, and I became the rehearsal pianist for it. And that theater experience with Mr. Paulson was life-changing for me, because all of a sudden I was meeting people. I was, you know, and the theater was so great because it wasn't just people in your class. You got to work with everyone. You got to work with, so I'd have seniors like, can you come to this rehearsal room with me? And I'm like, yeah, okay. You know, I felt empowered. I started feeling more confident. It was a wonderful experience. And, you know, that Mary Krenner was the choir director here. She did the Pioneer Performers, or Glee Club type deal. That I became that guy too. And when she passed, I heard from her niece, Wendy, who told me about it, and I was on the road, and I emailed her some memories of how great she was, and how I remember hanging out in her office. And for so many of us at that time, you know, you're awkward, you're gangly, you don't know who you are, what you're doing. Her office was a safe space that we used to hang out in. You know, those of us a little on the fringe of society, it became a safe space. And so much of my time here is like that's what I remember. It's that Frank Aschenbrenner was amazing. You know, I was in the stage band, which was a big band that got to play a lot of dances and stuff. And, you know, it was like we would play gigs. So all of a sudden we were like playing a dance across town, and I started wondering, where did that money go? I never got paid for those, but it was like all of a sudden it's like you started feeling like, oh, I'm somebody, I can do this. And it was so much fun. Frank and I never saw Mr. Aschenbrenner. We didn't always see eye to eye. There was a time I got kicked out of band for a couple of days. I thought the last chord should be embellished a little bit, so I would give the trumpet section everyone different notes to get the nice jazzy chord at the end. And he'd always look up. And he figured out what was going on, and yeah, I was asked to leave for a few days. But yeah, it was such a wonderful experience. And you know, talking about mentoring and using our God-given gifts, it's like I I've been so lucky to be able to do what I've done. I've traveled the world. I've gotten to meet a lot of famous people and see a lot of great places. But some of the most satisfying things I've done have been some of the mentoring I've done for young people. There was a kid who was brought to me by a neighbor. So this was in my Prince days, and I was looking crazy, and this neighbor lady came by one day. She's like, I have a friend who has a son who's in middle school. He's kind of getting bullied, but he's really good at piano, and I'm wondering if I could bring him by to meet you. And I'm like, yeah, of course. And so she brought him by. He's like, well, can he play for you? He wrote a rock opera. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I want to hear this guy. And he was really good. I ended up teaching him all through middle school, all through high school, and he got really good. I would send him on gigs that I couldn't do. I'm like, some jazz piano gigs, and he would do them, and I would never hear from the place again. They just started hiring him. So anyway, he went on to be a very successful music director on Broadway, and it's just stuff like that that's some of the most satisfying stuff. And recently, young Sam Levine over here, class of 2024. I've done some work for him, helping him out with some recording, you know. So there's a Hill Murray connection. We had a nanny. We had a nanny at one point who we were interviewing her, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. I was like, where did you go to school? She went to Hill Murray. I'm like, we got to hire her. And I was just absolutely. I was talking to someone recently, and so about Hill Murray, when did you go there? It's like, oh, I graduated '84. They're like, oh, those were the golden years. And I'm not sure what that meant, but I was like, oh, okay. Anyway, I'm grateful for this award. I was really surprised. For some reason, I was totally shocked. I'm not sure why, but thank you, and yeah.
Tommy, I think you'll find that the performing arts students are kind of the same today. I have one that lives in my own household. Sam will attest. Yeah. Switching from the alums, our last award of the evening is the Legacy Teacher Award presented to Jean McBride. Ever since I started here about 3 years ago, I've heard about Jean McBride. People would say things like, she set a standard for excellence. She laid this foundation that's still going strong. She was ahead of her time. She considered fiscal literacy something before it was even a buzzword in education. And I just want you to know that I have a student in my own household who's in DECA. It changes some students' lives. And in fact, this year we sent 5 students to nationals/internationals. That continues to go strong. Our current business teacher, Kelly Donnelly, was named by Mindependent as one of their recognized award winners this year as well. So what you've laid has really grown fruit, these seeds from long ago. In a school where entrepreneurship is part of its community DNA, Jean impacted the lives of countless students, both those who went into business and those who learned personal finance and other life lessons from her curriculum. I think they would all acknowledge that you played a special role in their education here. It's our complete honor to welcome Jean McBride as the Legacy Teacher for 2024.
Can you see me?
I didn't see this for Jean.
She came well prepared here. Thank you. As, as long as my feet touch the ground, I always feel safe. I'm extremely honored to receive the Legacy Award. Thank you to those who thought I was worthy of it. Believe me, I did not do this by myself. I am grateful to my fellow teachers. All of those who are here tonight played a special part in it. The administration, the support staff, custodians, and the cafeteria staff. You all provided support and many a good laugh. That's what keeps teachers going. Being named for this honor gave me cause to reflect. All of my classes were a semester, or for a few years we were on trimesters. Consequently, I had lots of students during the course of a year. I estimated I had over 5,000 students here at Hill Murray. If I include the students I had in my prefecting assignments, it would be close to 7,000. And that's a population of Manamidai. That is the students here at Hill Murray. Prior to coming here, I taught for 11 years in public high schools. So I really would have a community. When I started here in 1982, there was a room full of manual typewriters. Then we went to electric typewriters. And some years after that, computers. The technology was changing, and I needed to change with it. I was taking college credits to help me be a better teacher. As a result, I had more college credits than I needed for a master's degree. But I never had the exact classes for a master's degree. Since there aren't any Yelp reviews on me, I will share some comments students have made. Several former students who now have graduated and are working indicated keyboarding was one of their most valuable courses they took here. They used it every day. Several students have written me thank you notes saying I provided encouragement and support, including one student who I never ever had in class. But her locker was close to my classroom door. And lastly, one of my most memorable days of teaching was after an all-school mass in the gym. They announced that I was retiring, and from where I was seated, it appeared as though the entire student body was giving me a standing ovation. In my perception, I thought it was a standing ovation and appreciation for the things I had done, but maybe they were just glad to see me go. I taught keyboarding, computer literacy, consumer education, and marketing. But responsibility, respect, and being productive were more important than that, along with integrity and good character. Regardless if you were the most popular student in class or the most notorious troublemaker, you were all accountable and had the same rules. I hope my legacy has left footprints on Hill Murray, as well as my small suburb worth of students. Thank you for this honor.
Well, thank you everyone for being here this evening, for your attention, for all your applause, for your laughs. I think you'll agree with me that it's one of the best nights we have here on campus to hear these stories. I think I said in the beginning, I have 2 students who are enrolled here right now in my own house. I go home and I share these stories with them, or they walk the halls and they see the I Am a Pioneer posters, and they all have something to aspire to. That all makes them take a second look at how they're using their God-given talents and how they could make the world a better place. And I thank you for all the honorees this evening for demonstrating that in spades. So please drive safely. God bless. Get home, enjoy your coffee, your desserts, and come and see us next Thursday for Party on the Plaza.